All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Got a great show ahead for you guys. I think the most indicative story, the most interesting, informative story, is about the White House meeting with House Democrats that happened today. We waited all day for news about what happened internally, and we finally got the report. I'm going to share that with you in a little bit. Okay, don't miss that story. But we're going to start with fun. These 2012 candidates on the Republican side are awesome. I mean, we are having so much fun. You know what? I'm going to get into Palin and Romney because they got into, in the real world, this is how they fight, right? And their fight, I think, today was so much fun. There's a lot of meow. Wait, there, you see? I meowed. You see that? Okay, anyway. I did that on purpose. Everybody calm down. That's a reference to the second hour of yesterday's show. Okay, but we're going to start with real fun. Here comes Donald Trump. He's back. He goes on Fox News Channel. He starts talking about how bad the Republican candidates are, and then he hints that he might come back into the race. Awesome. Let's watch.
This plan is a disaster for 2012 for the Republicans. So they came out with lame duck. They came out with the $300 million instead of $38, and they come out with this ridiculously timed Paul Ryan plan. And I'm saying to myself, I was watching an entertainment show after coming back from New Hampshire, where a lot of people were there when I made a speech, and I loved doing it, and I really loved the people up there. I got along great and was doing well. And I'm watching an entertainment show with my wife, and they're saying that all of these great television stars, all of them, they want to be renewed. They want to be this. And I have NBC calling and calling and calling as I'm watching the show right after I get back from New Hampshire. Now, I put it all together. I'm looking at this self-destruction of the Republican Party with the moves that they've been making, and I have NBC calling, offering me tens of millions of dollars. And no matter how rich you are, it's still a lot of money. And and you know what? Almost more important than the money, I have a hit show in The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice. And I decided that I would do what I really felt was the responsible thing to do, also knowing that when my contract with NBC expires, there's plenty of time to run if I don't like the Republican candidate or, if certain other things happen. For instance, if the economy is terrible and they put up a stiff as a Republican candidate, which is a big possibility.
Who's a stiff? Well,
I don't want to get into the individuals. I don't want to get into the individuals, but so far it's not looking too good for the Republicans.
So basically you're not totally out. You're mostly out.
No, I'm not out at all. I'm not a Ross Perot who goes in and then decides to go out. I never went in. You understand that, okay? I've never said I was running. I said I was considering it and seriously considering it. And then I've watched these terrible mistakes made by the Republican Party.
Oh, this is so much fun, man. So I'm not out at all. What do you mean out? No. Now that my contract got settled with NBC and we got rid of all those problems about whether I'm going to be on the next season of Apprentice or not, who knows? Maybe I'll come back in. Hey, everybody, look at me. Look at me. I'm Donald Trump. Oh, but this guy's great, man. Before, I was mad at him because he's talking about serious issues. He's a clown of the earth, doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And he was saying some seriously questionable things. But now that you recognize that he's clown of the earth, it's kind of a fun clown. He's a showman. He comes on and he's like, I'm so rich. Everybody wants me. NBC's calling me left and right. You know what? Maybe I'll come back in. Look at these stiffs on the Republican side, okay? I might be coming back in. You know what would be awesome? If he came back in, not as a candidate for the Republicans, but as the host of Republican Apprentice. Okay, so they're running in 2012, and you know how he's evaluating all of them on Fox News now. So he's like, all right, Paul Lenti, you're super boring. You got no record to run on. I don't know why you're in the race. You're fired. Okay, now we're having fun. Okay, and imagine in the middle of a debate, it's like, Bachmann, you're a little crazy. Okay, you say things that aren't true. I know you got some fans. You don't work well as a teammate. You're fired. Okay, now that would be a Republican primary I would watch. Everybody would watch, okay? I want them to put a couple of thoughts behind it. It could be real interesting. I think Palin egged him on. You know how he had pizza with Palin the other day? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm eating up this attention. Look at all these cameras. I showed up, you and I together. Cameras, blink, 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 blink. And we make more money, man. You just keep getting your name out there and you beat up these guys. And the more you attack them, the more attention we get. And Trump's like, yeah, what was I thinking? Oh, I'm back in, man. In fact, I heard he said,
I jump in it.
fun for everybody, man. Here comes Donald Trump. By the way, you know, he got into some controversy there. I love the words controversy and what's considered controversy in politics. Because he ate his pizza with a fork and knife. People are like, Trump is so weird. Dude, who gives a shit how he eats his pizza? I mean, what is he, Barack Obama? Oh, no, he ate the burger with the mustard instead of ketchup. Who cares? Yeah, look, everybody knows he's a germaphobe. He doesn't like to shake hands, and he's not going to hold that greasy pizza. That's for the commoners. Although he'll use it as a photo op. But anyway, who cares? That stuff's not important. All right, now, speaking of the other candidates. So, today's Mitt Romney's big day. He's got it all planned out. This is the day he officially announces. Now, for me, I've never understood why the press cares at all about when someone officially announces. Like, oh, today Mitt Romney got in the race. Who cares? Mitt Romney was obviously in the race. He was obviously in the race. The minute his campaign ended in 2008, every single person in the country knew he was running. But I figured out why. It's because they send the cameras when they make the official announcement. And if the news cameras have already been sent, that's why it's a big day. So Romney's got it all figured out, and, you know, he's got the folks lined up. He's got a white barn in the background. He's got an American flag. Kids are saying the Pledge of Allegiance. He's handing out food to folks. And this stuff they plan for months. You know, they're so careful about this stuff. And just as all the cameras are about to turn to him, here comes Sarah Palin off the top rope. Oh, no. She rolls into New Hampshire with her bus. And all the cameras go, and they turn to Sarah Palin. Romney's like, where are you going? Hey, don't go. I'm announcing. Where are you all going? Okay. So Sarah Palin not only says, oh, what a coincidence. We happened to meet in New Hampshire on the same day. You kidding me? Coincidence? Coincidence. That ain't no coincidence. And then they ask her about Romney. She says, oh, yeah, I'm concerned as all individuals who care about freedom are about that, you know, healthcare program that he passed in Massachusetts. You betcha. Oh, she lays down the hammer. Look, for regular folks, okay, she said that in passing, whatever. No, for political people and the analysts and the reporters and the pundits, they're like, oh my God, Sarah Palin attacks Mitt Romney. So now all the stories about Palin. Meanwhile, Romney's trying to get attention, and the Tea Party hates him, right? And there's news story after news story about how Tea Party's main mission is to make sure Romney's not the candidate, right? So he comes out with what he considers to be a fire-breathing speech. And he says, Barack Obama has failed America. Okay, so, all right, I know. He's total failure, and you rock, and you're a rock star, etc. Like, he's trying to be all Tea Party, like, he's a failure, I hate Obama. You think you hate Obama? I hate him 10 times more. And then he said, quote, we are only inches away from ceasing to be a free market economy. Oh, come on, man, who are you kidding? Inches away from ceasing to be a free market economy. Because President Obama's, what, too tough on business? Too tough on Wall Street? What kind of a joke are you? You know that's not true. He's trying to get the Tea Party people riled up. You see that? Oh, yeah, Obama's a socialist, right? Oh, he doesn't believe in the free market. He's a failure. Am I good? Did I do good? No, you didn't do good. Well, you didn't do well. So, you know Romney's flip-flops. He's on almost every single issue, on abortion. You know he supported the stimulus originally? Now he says it's, of course, a disaster and it was terrible and Obama's failure. You know he supported the bailouts originally. Now he says bailouts are atrocious and unbelievable, et cetera, et cetera. You want to talk about almost every single issue. The auto bailouts. He was, disaster, travesty, et cetera. Now he says it was his idea. That's unbearable. But not just for progressives or independents, but also for Republicans. But he is still leading in the polls. He's got a lot of name recognition. He's got a lot of money. Big money's behind Romney. So it's going to be fun to see how this thing turns out. But I'll tell you what, today, for the first time, I thought, hey, you know what? Sarah Palin might actually be running. Because all the pundits are like, oh, no, she hasn't talked to any of the GOP operatives, and she hasn't gotten the endorsements of local, state, and city council people in Iowa and New Hampshire. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's Sarah Palin. She doesn't give a damn about that. You know how she always says she's a maverick? And it's a facade and ridiculous in so many ways. But when it comes to, the political campaigns that she's been doing, you got to give her credit. She is a maverick in that sense, right? She's like, yeah, your endorsements. You go ahead and you take it and you know what to do with it. Oh, me follow regulations and rules about how to run the campaign. Who's going to enforce it? I'm not going to do that, okay? I'll tell you about Sarah Pack in a second, right? And she's like, but wait a minute. They say, if you get into the race too late, you won't be able to raise enough money. She's like, what do I need the money for? She gets all that free press, right? That you need the money to get the press, but she doesn't need that because she already gets the free press. She just shows up and goes, Mitt Romney's healthcare plan sucks. It's such a coincidence I'm here, right? She goes, eats pizza with Donald Trump. Everybody goes and finds her. So I thought, you know what? When she showed up in New Hampshire to bust up Mitt Romney, I was like, maybe she's for real. Like, maybe she's really going to run. And when you look at the polls, okay, so among all Americans, she's a disaster, ranging anywhere in 4 different polls with a 59 to 63% unfavorable rating, okay? Somebody with those kind of numbers already has no chance of winning the presidency, you would imagine, under normal times, right? But when you look at the Republican voters, and that's who she needs in the primary, those same 4 polls range from 55 to 67% favorable, okay? So within Republicans, she's perfectly favorable. She has huge name recognition, and she has more credibility with the Tea Party and the populist movement within the Republican Party as it is, than Mitt Romney does. So all of a sudden, here comes Sarah Palin. It's a wild, wild ride, man. You never know what's going to happen. Your Republican primary is like a box of chocolates. Okay. I got one more thing on Sarah Palin, Sarah Pack. So you might be wondering, where is Sarah Palin getting all the money for this bus tour, right? And is she following the rules and regulations here? Where's the money coming from? How is she spending it? First of all, it could be just her own personal money and she's doing whatever she likes with it. You think Sarah Palin's going to spend her own money to do this kind of campaigning and grabbing attention? If you think that, you don't know Sarah Palin at all, okay? No, of course it's not her money. Now, if she raises the money for the campaign, a presidential run, but then doesn't run for president, well, then she's in a little bit of trouble, right? So, but she says, I'm not in the race. I'm not raising money for the presidential run. So where's she getting the money? Well, it's a thing called Sarah Pack. That's her political action committee. Now, the beauty of Sarah Pack is it is so broad that she can spend the money on almost anything. So, because it's not for her presidential run. It's technically to help other Republicans. Now, here comes the fun part. For example, in 2010, she raised $5.7 million to help other Republicans. Do you know how much she gave to other Republicans? $570,000. In other words, 10%. Other 90% that went to Sarah Pack, go right in the pocket. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean Sarah Palin just takes it and buys a house, but there are administrative expenses, staff that needs to be paid who are close to the Palin family, internal costs, etc. Somehow 90% of the money that you suckers gave to her, you Republicans who thought that she was going to help other Republicans get elected in 2010, right, Sarah Palin helped somebody other than herself. No, she took 90% of the money. Okay. Now, there was $1.3 million left over, and so she's using that on the bus tour. So yesterday when we showed you the clip of her saying to Greta Van Susteren, oh, we'll see where the bus tour goes. I don't know if the gas prices are high. Hey, Todd, how's gas prices going? Oh, she doesn't pay the gas. Sarah Pack pays the gas price. Okay, so it's not like it's coming out of her own budget. What a fraud she is, man. But she's good at it. I mean, now I'm beginning to think like, look, most of the country isn't buying it, but she's got those Republican zealots seeing stars like, oh my God, Sarah Palin. Oh, she cares about gas prices. She loves us so much. And hey, to them, maybe she's a good actress. And so she gets all that money from those folks, and they gave her a lot of money, and she spends it as she pleases. And that's what's paying for the bus, and that's what's paying for all of her traveling expenses, including for her family. So if you donated to her and you're happy with it, God bless. If you donate to her and you thought she was going to help other Republicans, well, you got another thought coming to you. Okay, Here's what Sarah Palin does. She helps herself. Okay. I have a guest coming up. Can I squeeze in a story? Let me squeeze in a story. Okay. So, Congressman Weiner, the story goes on, does 128 interviews. Nobody's satisfied, but we have excellent proof that, in fact, he was hacked, right? And now even Republicans are starting to backpedal a little bit, like, oh, really? Oh, well. First, Eric Cantor said, oh, I feel so sad for his wife. And, we really question, his leadership, et cetera, et cetera. Like, as if he thinks, oh, no, it was Weiner, and and he sent this to a girl. He, takes it like it's true. What a fraud Eric Cantor is, right? So Weiner goes on Rachel Maddow's show. He's going to try to explain it for the billionth time. Let's watch.
Because you haven't answered a question about whether the photo is you or not, you realize that now everybody thinks the photo is you. And so where there's smoke, there's fire. There must be a real scandal here. You must have been doing something creepy here. Let me ask you whether or not you want to answer that question, and then let me ask you what the answer to it is.
Whether the photograph is me? Well, yeah. Am I allowed to say I wish? I don't. Look, we don't know for sure. The photograph doesn't look familiar to me, but a lot of people who have been looking at this stuff on our behalf are cautioning me that stuff gets manipulated, stuff gets you can change a photograph, you can manipulate a photograph, you can doctor a photograph, and so I don't want to say with certitude it maybe didn't start out being a photograph of mine and now looks as something different, or maybe it was something that was from another account that got sent to me. I can't say for sure.
All right. And so, of course, once he said that, it started all over again today. And they're like, oh, what do you mean he can't say it with certitude? Is it him? Is it not him? Look, as I've told you, there's a couple of different possibilities. One is that the guy came into his account, took a picture that was already there, put it up. Okay? Now, that's not Congressman Weiner's fault. He didn't send that picture to a young girl. If it's in his own pictures, I don't know why he has it there, but it's entirely irrelevant to anybody. Number two is he comes into Weiner's account, takes a picture, and doctors it, okay? And according to most, makes it seem larger than Congressman Weiner apparently is. We take that from Jon Stewart, who is good friends with him, and joked around about that, right? In which case, maybe Weiner doesn't want to let on that it's not him. He's like, oh, that guy that's hung like a horse? I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, you never know. Could be me, right? Or most likely, he took an outside picture, the guy who hacked into the account, and then put it into Weiner's account and sent it, right? And yesterday, we filled you in on all the different ways that you can do that through YFrog. A number of blogs have already done it, experimented, showed how it's done exactly. It's incredibly easy. Reuters already showed that picture comes from a different batch than where Congressman Weiner normally sends his pictures, etc. So the evidence is overwhelming. The girl who got it is like, who the hell? What? No, I've never met Congressman Weiner. I know him as a congressman. I don't know him personally at all. We've been through all this. But now, there's new evidence coming from a person who apparently sent this story to Andrew Breitbart in the first place. It's a guy known as @PatriotUSA76 apparently on Twitter. His real name is Dan Wolf. And now Smoking Gun has found some emails that he sent to Breitbart. Okay. Now you tell me if this is the guy who hacked into his account or not. Now, of course, everybody had suspicions already about this guy because he had been hostile towards Weiner, and they had reasons to suspect that it might be him. And here's what he writes to Breitbart. Quote, I have a lot of personal problems I didn't want to go into, but as I become the focus of this, I am more and more afraid this will all come out, and I want to tell you why I haven't talked on the phone yet. Gee, I wonder what he's afraid is coming out. Now, if like somebody came and said, hey, Cenk, I think you hacked into Weiner's account, and I say, what do you mean? I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm afraid what I did will come out, right? If you didn't do it. He goes on and on. He says, I have an ex-wife suing me for custody of our 2 kids and for lots of other stuff right now. Her attorneys are after everything I own. I have an ex-girlfriend who has mental problems, causing issues for me at work. My business is suffering as a result. If my ex-wife's attorneys got a hold of a call recorded with me on it, they'd have a field day with that. I want to try to avoid. She had recorded me twice before. She worked with my ex-girlfriend and had 2 calls recorded. It's gotten me a lot of legal trouble. And then the final one I love. I am screwed. If this comes out along with everything I'm dealing with here, I don't know what to do. Gee, I wonder if he was the guy who hacked into the account. Why is he telling Breitbart, I don't want this to come out. Please don't tell my role in this. Huh. Interesting. So that's why, finally, towards the end of the day, we had a Republican strategist on the MSNBC show at 6, and he's like, yeah, he might have been hacked. I mean, it's still a problem, kind of, but I mean, okay, maybe he got hacked. Oh, is that right? Is that right? Now, what did I tell you from the very first minute we started covering this? I said, there's no way this story is true. No way that Congressman Weiner puts out a picture like that to a girl he doesn't know, or even if he knew her, on his public Twitter account. You're crazy. No way. And especially when I found out, which was fairly early on, that it came from a different batch than the other pictures, it was case closed. But of course, all of Washington loved this story. They're like, oh my God, there's a penis involved. This story's awesome. So, it's officially over. I'm calling it.
End of this.
All right, no more discussion of Congressman Weiner's wiener. Okay, we're done with it. It is resolved. He got hacked. There ain't no question about it. And anyone who's trumpeting it up, like Andrew Breitbart, is, as always, a proven, unbelievable, ridiculous liar. All right, come right back. All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk and Anna with you. What's going on, Casper?
Nothing.
It's summer, but you have a very lovely spring dress on. It's actually technically still spring, to be accurate. Okay. Nonetheless, it's June. Come on, keep it real.
Yeah.
It's summer. Okay. We have a lot of fun stories.
We do. Actually, we don't have a lot of fun stories.
No, we don't, but they're very interesting.
We do have interesting stories. And, you know, I want to start off with this extremely long New York Times Magazine article that was written by Wesley Tang. And in the article, what happened?
He's there screwing on, we're screwing around. Sorry. Say it again.
Okay. Wesley Tang from New York Times Magazine wrote this really, really impressive article titled...
All right, say it again. Just calm down. It's not New York Times Magazine. It's New York. It's New York Magazine.
Oh, it's New York Magazine. I'm sorry. Which is why it was like 16 pages long. But okay, Wesley Tang from New York Magazine.
Oh my God, I am totally sorry for.
All right.
This article's done.
It's done.
Okay,
it's done.
it's over.
It's over. Okay, end of this.
Wesley Tang from New York Magazine wrote an article titled Paper Tigers. And in the article, he basically has a response to Amy Chu's Tiger Mom article, right? And he was, you know, raised as an Asian man, Asian boy, is now a man.
That's true. That's what happens when you get raised. Okay.
But anyway, he brings a very interesting perspective to the table, because he talks about how, you know, maybe the parenting methods that Amy Chu uses are successful when it comes to academics and when it comes to meritocracy, but in reality, these Asian children are growing without a sense of social perspective, okay? They grow without knowing how to interact with individuals. In fact, there's also this huge stereotype that Asian people are shy and timid, and because of that stereotype, it's very unlikely that a very intelligent Asian individual would get hired for a leadership position.
Okay, so what's interesting about it is that he tackles that stereotype and says, look, there's some truth to it, okay?
Exactly.
And it's not because Asians, of course, are genetically this way or that way. That's absurd. Everybody knows that. But there are certain things that the culture reinforces, which makes sense. And they say, look, one of the things that Asian culture reinforces, generally speaking, of course, is respect for authority, right? So keep your head down, and if your parents say this, you do it, okay? There isn't a discussion about it. If your teacher says this, you do it. You got to take a test, put your head down, and study for the test, and care about the test, and don't worry about going out and with your friends and playing kickball or whatever you want to do, playing video games, et cetera, right? Now, again, these are, of course, all broad, and he recognizes that they're broad, et cetera. But you see it playing out, whether it's corporate boardrooms, whether it's schools, et cetera. And he lays out a really interesting case for it.
He really does. And, you know, we have some facts and figures to show you guys how this really plays out in the real world. So, first of all, there were really shocking statistics noted in this article. Let's put up the first graphic, Jesus. So it turns out that in New York City, the Asian population is 12.6%. Now, when it comes to
admission to Stuyvesant.
Yeah, Stuyvesant, 72% of the students there are Asian.
Okay, so let me explain this real quick for those of you who are not from New York, of course. Stuyvesant is one of the top schools in New York, and the way that they choose who goes to the school is purely based on test scores. So they're not interested in affirmative action. They're not interested in if you're rich or you're poor or you're this or you're that. And so when they do it just on test scores, Asians dominate.
They do dominate. And just to show you how competitive it is, it's solely based on merit, okay? And what happens is you take the standardized test and you have to score within the top 3% to get accepted into this school. Okay, so what a lot of these Asian students do is they go to these cram schools, right, which teach you how to take a standardized test. You don't learn anything else. You don't really learn math, as is mentioned in this article. You're taught how to answer math questions on a standardized test without.
Okay. Now, I say that's a little unfair, right? Because, of course, you have to know math, how to answer math questions. But they do teach you how to answer those specific questions. So it's not like, hey, I would really like to have a broad knowledge of trigonometry. No, no, no. You have a very specific knowledge of what's going to be on the frickin' test.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you become a professional test taker,
right?
Okay, so some more statistics for you guys. So Asians also compose 46% of the entering class at UC Berkeley. Asian undergrads at Ivy League schools account for 17%.
All right. So as you see there, Asians are less than 5% of the general population. Now, the Ivy Leagues do affirmative action. And what does that do? That totally hurts Asian Americans, okay? Because if they did not do affirmative action, they would take far more Asian Americans. As it is, they still take 17%, which is triple the rate of their general population percentage, right? But when you go to Berkeley, where there's no affirmative action, in California, affirmative action is not allowed. But they take into account, you know, some other factors like income level, background, et cetera, et cetera. Then the Asian population shoots up to 46%, right? So the minute you take away affirmative action, it becomes, at the top schools, dominated by Asians. But that's why I thought Stuyvesant was really interesting, because when you take away any other consideration and you only look at test scores, then it goes to 72%.
It's amazing.
Okay, so affirmative action, more than any other group in the country, hurts Asian Americans. Okay, now look, the writer here, Wesley Yang, says, I get it. Like, for example, the Ivy Leagues, you want to raise the next generation of leaders. You want some degree of diversity. You know, you want to be able to have an interaction with people that are interesting, different. Some guys, you know, some guy or girl is doing ballet, and others are doing rocket science. Some are white, some are Asian, etc. There's good reason for that diversity. But if you just open up the floodgates, it's been nothing but Asian. Okay,
Right.
So.
And this is the thing, okay? They go to these Ivy League schools. They go to the best UCs that California has to offer. But it's really interesting because even though they graduate at the top of their class, even though they're highly successful in academics, when they graduate and they enter the real world, they're severely disappointed. Okay, and they're disappointed because they will get good paying jobs, but very rarely will they get jobs in leadership positions. And it's because of this stereotype that's, you know, being
perpetrated
and
you know, and carried out, honestly, to some degree. So look, there's two aspects of this, right? One aspect is they get discriminated against based on perceptions of Asians, right? The other aspect of it, as you know, what again Yang points out here, is that it's because they don't show leadership skills, or at least they do not show them in a way that the rest of the society is used to and corporate America is used to. So for an example he gives is, and he talks to experts in the different fields, et cetera. So it's actually one of their examples. You go in a corporate boardroom, when you know the executive is talking, your boss is talking, what do Asian Americans do? They stay quiet because they've been told when your boss is talking, you shut up and you listen, right? You take notes and you look forward to doing whatever he told you to do, right? But a lot of people interpret that as you're not participating.
You're not participating.
You're not leading.
You don't know what's really going on.
You might be disinterested because you haven't said anything, right? These are all things that wind up hurting you in the corporate world. And so this is not just conjecture, there's numbers on it, right?
So let's look at Asians in Silicon Valley. 1/3 of all engineers are Asian in Silicon Valley. but they only make up 6% of the board members and only 10% of corporate officers.
And now that's in Silicon Valley, where there's obviously, as you can tell, a ton of Asians, and still they haven't overcome that.
Right.
Now, in other corporate circumstances, they're in much worse shape, right? And so you would think with all these incredibly smart, hardworking Asians coming up through the ranks and getting incredible education, that they would start to dominate at the corporate level, but they're not because of some of the things that are holding them back, right? And I think part of what Yang is doing here is saying, hey, listen, we got to get beyond our culture. Like, there's upsides to it, no question about it. And in fact, look, I get two different things out of this. One is, I tell the rest of America all the time, white people, black people, Latino people, everybody else, hey, listen, don't give me this stuff about, oh, you can't do it and you're in this shape and you're in that shape. And so, no. You shut up and you study and you will do better, okay? Call me a bad guy, call me whatever you like, but these Asian Americans, they're not any smarter. It's test after test has shown it doesn't have to do with intelligence. And if it doesn't have to do with intelligence, it goes to show you, it doesn't matter. You put your head down, you study, you get better grades, you go to a good school, okay?
Right.
So that part of the culture I love in a lot of ways. On the other hand, you got to encourage creativity. You got to have people question authority to some degree, etc. And in that part of the Asian culture, they're not, they got to reevaluate that, in my opinion.
As with everything else in life, there needs to be balance. And I think that people always downplay the importance of being a social person, interacting with other people, learning to be more creative. Those are all very important aspects that are difficult to learn when you're solely focused on academics, when you're focused on the math, science, and, history, and that's it.
Well, one of the things in this article that I loved was a Vietnamese guy who teaches a course on how to pick up chicks.
Right.
Okay.
How to pick up white chicks.
Yes, white blonde chicks. Okay. And he's audacious and he's great. And he says, look, for a long, long time, I didn't get laid, right? And I didn't know what I was doing. And I was standard Asian. Put your head down. You study. You don't question authority. You don't do anything outside of the norms, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, and I realized I wasn't getting laid. Okay. And I thought, if I take the same kind of seriousness that I have in tackling whatever it might be, my career, math, studying, tests, etc., and I apply it to learning how to pick up women, maybe it'll work. And it did. And he's right. And I've always said this. I don't understand why smart kids are the geeks and nerds and stuff, and they don't know how to pick up girls. Like, why don't you put your smarts towards that, right? So what he does is he goes and gives, these seminars, and charges money for it, of course, to other Asian students and sometimes people in the workforce too.
He charges nearly $1,500 for this course, by the way.
But they love it.
They do love it. They feel like it's worth it. But what I found interesting is the number one thing that they're taught to do is smile.
Exactly. Okay. The reason I liked it is not because of the picking up the girls. He's like, you've got to break some of the cultural things you've been taught. One of the things is, what are you smiling about? Which is crazy.
That's terrible, yeah.
I know. And my wife is Chinese, right? And she says it's funny because, of course, Chinese people love their kids just as much and their grandkids and stuff, but the reaction of her side of the family to our baby is incredible love, but in a muted way, right? Whereas my side of the family, we're Mediterranean. So we're like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and everything's like, et cetera, so expressive, et cetera. But that expressiveness helps you not only in business, but it helps you in picking up women, right? You give them social cues. The second thing he says is, you got to break this pattern of not speaking, okay? You've got to take bold action. You've got to go up to a woman and say, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Okay? And that confidence is incredibly important. Engaging the person is incredibly important. And I think that Wesley Yang here has written a really interesting article about the upsides and the downsides of the culture and how you can achieve a better balance. All right. Now, as you can tell, I love this article. We bring in our Asian American expert,
And also our audio guy.
Steve, the audio guy, and he is going to, and this is TYT tradition, when talking about anybody's race, we have every race in here, we just bring him in. Yes, Steve-O.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you had comments on this, that's why I brought
I
you
have
in.
lots of comments. One of the comments is something that you guys didn't touch upon is, the guy talks about the bamboo ceiling, right? It's like the glass ceiling, but for Asians. To reach upper management. And I think that's definitely there. And I don't think it's there because of any malicious intent by the ones who are in management. It's there for a number of reasons, one of which is as an Asian person, look, I'm a very social guy, right? But I also speak very good English. But when I was at the law firms, one of the comments that a partner told me very early on was, "Wow, your English is really good," right? Which is absurd. He would never say that to a white guy, never, right? But it just goes to show you what additional hurdles I have to overcome. In addition to everything else you have to overcome to reach upper management, I have to overcome people's questioning my English skills, right? And, it's just one small thing. And I told this to Anna, but one time someone said to me, or someone referred to me as that Chinese guy, right? Mm-hmm. So that puts me in an awkward position. Do I say, look, I'm not Chinese, I'm Korean, and it matters for these particular reasons? I mean, do I make an issue out of it? Do I stay silent? I'm not quite sure. And, based on the circumstance, my reaction will be different. But the point is, these obstacles are thrown in front of me on a regular basis, and sometimes I manage it correctly, sometimes I don't. And if I screw up enough times, then that would bar me from upper management. So I think, not just Asians, obviously, but women and other minorities have a much harder time breaking into upper management. And I get very annoyed when people, usually white men, suggest that minorities have any kind of advantage over them. It's ridiculous if we so don't. There are so many more things that we have to overcome.
Right. And look, it's what Joe Biden said. It's what Joe Walsh said about black folks, too. He's like, oh, Obama's very clean and articulate. Well, what the fuck did you expect him to be? Right? So, and then they say, and, I know Biden didn't mean it, but look, he said it. And look, it goes to something unconscious in his head, right? So, in a sense, he did mean it, to keeping it real, right? He didn't mean it as an insult, but that's what's going through his head. And so when they say, oh, Obama had it really easy, as a black man, it was so much easier to become president. That's absurd. And I got my massive issues with Obama, but it wasn't easy becoming president as a black man, right?
Yeah, and there are also constant subtle reminders that as an Asian person, you don't quite belong, you don't quite fit into the club. And again, it's nothing malicious. It just puts a greater burden on us to work harder, to break through. So I have to be friendlier than my white office mate in my law firm.
Well,
I have to work harder at cocktail parties. I have to take more initiative. So there's just more work for me to do, which sometimes can be tiring.
Right. Well, in this office environment, you don't have to work harder to be more congenial than your white coworker, Dave Kohler. What? Huh? Okay.
I love throwing Dave under the bus for no reason. Yes, I'm a lot more fun and a lot more social than Dave. So there.
All right. Now, just one last thing before we leave this. What do you think about the article? Do you think that he's generally right about the bad side, the wrong side of the culture, or the side of the culture that's hurting?
No, I think he's spot on. I think it's a really well-written, balanced article. And look, the thing that I really liked about the article is that it's not all about, oh, poor Asians, they're such victims, poor me. No, there are things about our culture that are not good for us to succeed in this culture in the U.S. So we got to change that. And one of the things that I always emphasize to my parents, and God bless them, they took it to heart, is, look, you got to have a balanced life, okay? You can't just study when you're in college or high school. And you can't, because this is what Asian parents want you to do. They want you to study, 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 not date at all. And then all of a sudden, when it's time to get married, they're like, well, why don't you get married? Marry right away. And you're like, well, I'm socially awkward, and I can't get a girl. I can't even date, so how can I get married? It's like, what? What are you talking about? But you have a Ivy League degree. Why can't you get married right away? Right?
Yeah,
See,
okay.
It's got totally different values.
All right, two quick things on that, and then we'll move on to other stuff. So my dad is, immigrant background, similar in that sense, right? And the reason they say that is because back in the day, there were arranged marriages. So they're like, why can't you get married? You have an Ivy League degree. You just go get the best girl in the village. Okay. Now my dad's going to get mad, not village, etc. But, it could be a bigger city. But
God forbid you pick a girl from the village.
Okay.
That's like, no, but in Armenian culture too, like when you want to insult someone, you refer to them as villagers.
Right. That's why they don't like it. Like my parents are from a small town in southeastern Turkey, but it's not a village.
It's so stupid.
It's not a village. Okay.
All right, last thing. Anna, should I tell my 8th grade story, or should I say that for a post game?
You have to save it for the post game. It's
All
too
right.
good. It's too good. Members only.
All right. So we get to that in a second. So that's what, like, once I asked my dad, how should I pick up girls at school? You know, I'm partly facetious, but partly not, because, you know, he was a good-looking, charming guy, you know, and so, you know, but it's old school. It's a different context, and that's part of the conversation we're having here. So he said, well, you are going to Wharton Business School. Penn has a nursing school. End of this. He's like, you just go stand in front of the nursing school and say, I'm from Wharton.
I'm so amused by that.
Okay. He's like, I don't understand. He's like, where's the question?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Because back in the day, it's not just the arranged marriages. Like, and it's not just Turkey. Even in America, you're like, you know, I am from the business school. I am an Ivy League educated. And the girl's like, oh my God. And that world doesn't exist anymore. And the parents have a hard time trying to understand that, right? And so finally, as far as assimilating, I remember I got mad at my dad because when we first came here, and he's like, his real name is Doğan Uygur, right? It's the same name, it's just pronounced differently because of the letters in Turkish, right? He's like, yeah, Doğan Uygur. Okay.
And
I'm
you
like,
got mad at him?
yeah, I'm a kid. I just came from Turkey, and I'm like, Türkiye büyük, başka büyük yok, right? So, and I'm like, no, I am going to say Uygur, okay? So I go to class, and I'm like, what's your name? Cenk Uygur. Cenk Uygur, Uygur? Uygur, 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 Uygur? And I don't remember how long it lasted. I don't know if it was a week or a month, but I was like, God damn it,
My
it's
guess
Uygur.
is a day.
Okay.
Not a week.
No, you know me, I'm stubborn. It probably lasted a little
Right.
while until I was like, all right, Dad, I get it. Okay. And that's why actually my name is pronounced Uygur, which don't try. No American's ever said it right. So that's why we went with Cenk Uygur, and that was our little accommodation. All right, anyway, we're going to come back
Yeah.
and do other stories. Okay, Young Turks.